The countdown read 6 minutes, and Cadet Reeves's palm was the only thing keeping it from reading 5. She had a Thulian instructor's throat pinned against her forearm and a fusion core screaming toward meltdown under her other hand, and somewhere behind her eyes, a very calm voice was asking whether this was actually a plan or just the fastest way to die with style. 9 Vrax warriors filled the doorway, weapons raised, refusing to leave without the thing she was about to burn to slag. 5 minutes now. She would explain later, if there was a later, that it started with a dead tablet. 6 months earlier, the tablet had gone black in the middle of her final exam, and Reeves raised her hand into a room that expected her to fail. Equipment malfunction isn't an excuse for an empty submission, Instructor Qualrix told her, the scales along his jaw flickering the ash gray of a species mildly annoyed. You had the full hour. With respect, sir, the exam asked us to demonstrate tactical problem-solving using available resources. She was already on her feet. I have resources. The room went still enough to hear the collection drone humming near the exit. Qualrix's small eyes narrowed to slits. You have a dead screen. Reeves unclipped it from her belt instead of answering. She turned it once in her hands, testing where the seams sat, then brought it down on the corner of her desk hard enough that the crack silenced the last 2 cadets still typing. She hit it again. The shell split under her fingers, and she pulled the guts out, battery, board, glass, dropping each piece to the floor until only the metal frame was left in her hands. Cadet Reeves, Qualrix's voice climbed half an octave. What exactly are you doing? She didn't answer him. She snapped the frame at its weak point twice until one broken edge sat sharp enough to open skin. She stripped the elastic tie from her hair and wound it around the opposite end for a grip. And when she was done, she was holding something that had never been a weapon an hour ago and now unmistakably was. Scenario 7, she said, holding it level. Hostages, Vrax borders, no armory access. Every answer on that test assumed you could talk your way out or wait them out. Vrax don't negotiate and they don't wait. She met Qualrix's eyes across the blade. You told us to use what we had. I had a tablet. Now I have a weapon. That's my submission. Qualrix picked the thing up himself, turned it in his claws, tested the edge against his own scale with visible surprise that it bit. You've destroyed Coalition property, he said finally. Yes, sir. You've frightened 11 of your classmates. That was probably unavoidable, sir. A long pause. Then, to the disbelief of the entire hall, you pass, with honors. He set the weapon down like it might still cut him. Dismissed. Later that night, her bunkmate Tors asked if she'd been scared. Being scared doesn't get the work done, she said, flexing hands that ached to the joints. They put us at the bottom of the coalition and started a clock on how fast we'd wash out. I'd rather go down proving them wrong than survive proving them right. 3 months after that, the alarms on the training station went off with the Vrax already inside the hull. They'd come through maintenance access nobody remembered building, and by the time Reeves reached Deck 9, there were bodies of the wrong species everywhere, and Commander Vel pinned behind a support column, his rifle running dry. She hit the nearest Vrax from the side, drove her reforged blade, the exam weapon, wrapped now in real tape and given a proper edge, into the gap behind its knee, and felt it go down screaming. Cadet, Vel said, not looking away from the corridor. This deck was supposed to be clear. It was, until I saw them heading for the junior dorms. She parried a strike that jarred her wrist to the bone. Where's your protocol for this? There isn't one built for 15 boarders. Then we improvise. Tors and Kim caught up behind her, armed with scrap and desperation, and the 4 of them fell into a rhythm none of them had drilled, but all of them somehow already knew. Reeves noticed the pattern before Vel said it aloud. The Vrax weren't killing efficiently. They were herding, funneling every defender toward one corridor, one door. Engineering. The prototype fusion drive. What none of them guessed was who'd be standing at the access panel, already keying in the codes. Sir, Reeves's voice cracked on the word when she saw Qualrix's claws on the drive's casing. Tell me you're stalling them. He didn't turn around right away. When he did, the grey had spread from his jaw to his throat. They came to me months ago, threatened my homeworld if I refused. His voice was steady in the way of someone who'd rehearsed the confession alone many times. This drive could rebuild their whole fleet. I told myself a few years bought for my people was worth the trade. They'll kill your people the moment they don't need the trade anymore. You know that. Perhaps, but perhaps I buy them time to run. He looked past Vel, past the weapons at her back, straight at her. Tell me you wouldn't make the same choice for your own world. No, she said, and there was no hesitation in it at all. Because your deal gets everyone killed. Mine at least gets a chance. That was when the doorway filled with Vraks. 9 of them, weapons raised, patient because they still wanted the prize intact. So Reeves grabbed the one thing in the room they wanted more than her death and threatened to burn it. She locked the containment override, threw the key code into a loop even she couldn't undo, and told Qualrix to translate exactly what 6 minutes meant to a species that didn't understand bluffing. They say humans wouldn't destroy a station over one drive, Qualrix relayed, voice shaking. Tell them my species once nearly burned our whole planet down over a point of pride. Ask if they'd like to find out whether we've mellowed. 4 minutes now. The Vraks leader clicked something low and long. Qualrix's throat moved under Reeves's forearm before he spoke again. He says you're lying, that no soldier destroys her own ship. Then he's never met a human soldier. She didn't blink. 3 minutes. After that it stops being my choice. The Vraks broke first. They went from patient to gone inside a minute, and Reeves released Qualrix, shoved him toward the corridor ahead of her, and ran. They didn't make the pod bay with room to spare. Tors and Kim were already holding the door, and the 5 of them crushed into a hull built for 4 while the reactor's pitch climbed behind them toward something final. Vel slammed the launch himself. The pod tore free with enough force to rattle teeth, and through the viewport they watched engineering bloom white, contained, brief, then fold back into dark. The station held. The Vraks ships were already running for open space, empty-handed. Nobody spoke for almost a minute. Then Tors started laughing, quiet at first, then loud enough that Kim joined him, and even Vel's mandibles clicked in something that might have been relief. Qualrix said nothing at all. He would face a coalition tribunal instead of home, and everyone in that pod already knew it, and none of them, not even Reeves, could find it in themselves to feel it as a victory. Reeves was promoted 6 months later, medals pinned by an admiral who'd read every line of her file twice before the ceremony. When Thex asked how the fleet was meant to trust an officer with her habit of destroying government property, Reeves didn't reach for something clever. You're not meant to trust me to color inside the lines, Admiral. You're meant to trust me to notice the exact moment the lines have already burned down. She flexed the same scarred hand that had broken a tablet into a blade, that had held a reactor hostage 6 minutes at a time. Every other species in this coalition carries thousands of years of doctrine telling them what's possible. We've barely got 100. We haven't learned yet what we're not allowed to try, and I'd rather we didn't start. That night, alone on the observation deck, she found a jagged sliver of scrap caught in the pod's emergency kit, shrapnel from a wall that no longer existed. She turned it over once in the starlight, the way she'd once turned a tablet frame over in an exam hall, weighing it, testing the balance out of old habit. Then she set it down on the console instead of pocketing it, and let it lie there catching the light, because she didn't need it anymore. Next time, she'd find something new to break.